when you're trying to save GHGs, the sooner you do it, the fewer there are to save. So for us, we really challenged ourselves. Originally, honestly, it was 2040. We said, well, how can we do better? And not just do better by setting a target and hoping we get there, but doing better by crafting a detailed roadmap that actually shows us what we need to do to get there. And that's what we did. We found that 2030 was achievable, and we're super excited to be able to do it.
Welcome to Sustainability in the Air, the world's first podcast dedicated to sustainable aviation. I'm your host, Shashank Nigam, the CEO of Simplifying. On this show, I speak with aviation leaders, innovators, and policymakers driving real action, separating the signal from the noise to spotlight what's truly moving the industry forward. The same focus that is at the heart of our new book, Sustainability in the Air, Volume 2. In it, Dirk Singer and I take stock of how far the industry has come and how far we still need to go. With the global carbon budget potentially running out by 2032, the clock is ticking. But the most promising solutions today aren't just environmentally sound, they are economically superior as well. From SAF and contrail mitigation to direct air capture, the book offers a practical roadmap for aviation's journey to net zero. Get your copy today. Link in the show notes. My guest today is Tamara Vrooman. She is the CEO of Vancouver International Airport, which has a visionary target of getting to net zero by 2030. Tamara and I discuss exactly why and how they will get there, why they decided to move their target from 2040 to 2030, which was aggressive in itself, and how she is engaging the entire ecosystem in ensuring that they meet these targets. Tamara and I also speak about her background as British Columbia's youngest Deputy Finance Minister, her previous stint as the CEO of Vancity Credit Union, and the experiences she brings to Vancouver Airport's journey to net zero. I hope you enjoy this episode. Tamara, welcome to the podcast. You are very ambitious. You've committed to a net zero airport operations by 2030. You have 4 pathways there to get there. I remember seeing the last time I was at YBR, all these banners and posters just as you exit the airport, 2030, 2030. I was thinking, wow, no airport is so bold to have 2030 as a target, and even bolder to put this out on the billboards. So I'm curious, why so aggressive, and how are you going to get there?
Yeah, well, thanks very much for inviting me to the podcast. We're super excited to talk about everything we're doing in this space. And the short answer is, when you're trying to save GHGs, the sooner you do it, the fewer there are to save. So for us, we really challenged ourselves. Originally, honestly, it was 2040. We said, well, how can we do better? And not just do better by setting a target and hoping we get there, but doing better by crafting a detailed roadmap that actually shows us what we need to do to get there. And that's what we did. We found that 2030 was achievable. I tell any other airport CEO that asks me that it is achievable. You just have to start the planning work. And we're super excited to be able to do it. We think it lends not only to the resilience of our airport, the efficiency of our airport, but obviously also to the reputation and future of our airport.
10 years. That's quite an ambitious acceleration in itself. What led to that decision, and when was this taken, just for perspective?
We made the decision officially in 2021. So we had, the better part of a decade to get there to 2030. And again, when you do the detailed work of what it actually will take and where we could make investments that would get us there, we started to find out that actually it wasn't as difficult as many had thought. Often when you're doing something for the first time, there's obviously risk and uncertainty, but we just went through the methodical planning work that we do when we extend a runway or we build a terminal, and we found that actually it was achievable and that the investment was manageable over a period of time, like a decade. So we've been super focused, sticking to the task at hand, and we're on track. There's no doubt about it.
I love the vision. Before I get into the how, I want to ask you why. Why care?
Yeah. Well, we are a fossil fuel industry, aviation, and we're also, I feel, essential to the economy, to trade and travel around the world, but also to the very survival of communities. You know, Canada is a country that's blessed with a big geography, but a small population. And so having access to air service is literally essential to making our country work. So I'm a big believer in our mission and what we do, full stop. But can also see we're here on a floodplain, on an island, in a large river delta next to the ocean, on the west coast of North America. And frankly, we're seeing the effects of climate in terms of adaptation and mitigation on a daily basis. And we're in a drought, or we have atmospheric rivers, or we have bomb cyclones. Extreme weather events that we have never witnessed before in our lifetime here. And so, what do we do to build the resilience of our airport? Well, we do many things on the adaptation side, but also we need to really be getting on a different pathway with respect to GHGs. It is for sure the long term path. And I think the sooner we get there, we have a first mover advantage. It's the right thing to do for our community and our surrounding area. We have the opportunity to learn and to share those learnings with smaller airports in our region. And we're the number one airport for customer service and for passenger experience in North America for 14 years. Why wouldn't we be the number one airport for sustainability and really setting a future vision?
I love it. I love it. And I would agree. Vancouver being my home airport, I'm kind of biased. The customer experience is fantastic. Amongst North American airports, I think amongst the smaller airports, I love Halifax. And among the
Yeah,
larger airports, I
yeah,
love Vancouver. And
fantastic.
now let's talk about the why. Sorry, the how, because you shared the why.
Mhm.
There are four pathways. Perhaps you can detail these for me on how you plan to get there.
Yeah, so we do have four pathways there. Everything from our capital build to conservation to using sustainable fuels and then data and monitoring at the same time. And so we have been looking at everything. We're the largest building in British Columbia, so in Western Canada. And so heating and cooling of our terminal and our operations is a major part of our exercise here. So we've looked at everything from the physical envelope of the terminal to the way that we heat and cool. So we have the largest geo-exchange system coming on stream in the country. We are blessed here to have hydroelectric power as the main source of power in British Columbia via BC Hydro. So we already have an advantage there. But how are we extending that advantage to airside, to the light fleet, to more of what we do to manage with our tenants and our airline customers? And then we're also looking at the way that we think about sustainable fuels that we use, where we can have a conversion, and then data and innovation and monitoring is a huge part of what we do as well as conservation and storage. So you put all of those things together, and there's, as you might imagine, dozens of projects and programs underneath that all contribute to us being confident that we will hit our net zero target by 2030.
Wow, that is a lot. I have to admit, and there are contingencies, right? It's like dominoes. What if one domino slips? Which contingency kicks in first? If you're, at 2028 or 2029, you're really far off the target. Do you go after demand reduction, or do you go after fuel switching, or do you go up to Squamish for some of the carbon removals and
Right.
storage that
Right.
carbon engineering is doing? What happens?
So we have one of the things that I think is quite unique about our 2030 roadmap is it really is a roadmap, and so we have been able to detail our progress and put it into bite-sized chunks, if you want to put it that way, such that we can really measure if we're on track or not. And I would really encourage anybody thinking about this kind of initiative, you have to break it down into component parts to be able to measure progress, make some changes along the way to ensure that you achieve that outcome. So I'm very confident we will achieve the outcome. But if we don't, the first thing that we would see swapping out would be on the sustainable fuel side. We already have a good supply chain and contracts for renewable natural gas. We are the largest purchaser of renewable natural gas in the province of BC. So we have that capacity and that supply chain already provided. Also, biofuels would be another area that we would switch to, those being the easiest and already, frankly, a bit pre-sourced areas of contingency.
Fair enough. I want to switch gears a little. This is not your first rodeo. Previously, when you were the CEO of Vancity Credit Union, you ensured that they were the first credit union in North America to be net zero.
Right.
Now you're doing this with Vancouver Airport. What's different if you look back?
Yeah, I think what we really learned at the credit union, we also owned a federally chartered bank based in Toronto, was that we could decarbonize our own operations, but frankly, that was pretty easy because they were, the odd call center, branches, some head office space. The real challenge there came from looking at how we decarbonize our loan and investment portfolio. And in that second chapter that we took on, which we made great progress towards, but wasn't fully for somewhat obvious reasons, given the economy in Canada, net zero. It was really that operations piece that's totally different in an airport context than it would be in a financial institution context. So our operations in a financial institution were very small. Our impact of our lending and our investments were very big. Here, our operations are very, very big, and our investments are relatively small. But one thing that has is in common with the two, and that is in a financial institution, it makes a big difference how you allocate capital. Who gets a loan and who doesn't literally can change the course of a community or certainly a business. In our case, because electrification, for example, we provide that as the airport. That comes in centrally to the airport and it's provided to everybody who uses the airport on Sea Island. That has a massive impact. Whereas some of our airline partners could choose to use sustainable fuels or choose maybe a tenant partner could switch to hydrogen. That's great. And that's going in the right direction, but it doesn't have nearly the impact of the airport providing that for all of them. So that's where we really felt that we could do our part and set a platform that our airline, tenant, and passenger and guest customers could really build from.
Very interesting. And thank you for sharing. I mean, we usually don't get this perspective. Someone who has done this in two different sectors, especially. One of the interesting thing is Vancouver Airport is also one of the only 3 airports currently in North America that has achieved the ACI Airport Carbon Accreditation, ACA rating level 4 plus. What's this about? It's a rating, but does it give you any practical leverage with airlines and regulators? Why is such a rating important?
Yeah, so we're really big proponents of the ACI system for a few reasons. First of all, it's a very data driven accreditation, and so as you know, not all accreditations are created equal, but we really are supportive of the ACI one because it is data driven. So it requires us to validate the data, the GHG data that we do collect, and gives us greater confidence on our pathway to net zero, that we're measuring the right thing in the right way at the right time. Measurement being a key area to watch, right? There's some significant deficiencies in this space, as we've seen. And so I really like it for that reason. The second is it does give us the opportunity to connect, because it is an airport certification, what we do with other airports in our region. and in our network. So we've signed a memorandum of understanding with all of the regional airports in British Columbia to help them also be net zero, and that we would share our learnings, how we measure our procurement practices. We're the largest airport by quite some margin, so we lend our procurement as well, so that if we're buying two things, why not buy an extra one for a smaller airport, whereby allowing them to get the benefit of scale as they go on this journey. Really excited about how the ACI certification allows us to communicate and share that data. We do think that we will be the first region in the world to have all of the regional networks at net zero. It also is very
Wow.
practical. It allows us to measure. Are we going in the right direction? Are we getting the savings, GHG savings that we need? How is that translating into our return on investment? And so it has a very practical operational benefit as well. So really threefold. One, the fact it's data driven. Two, the fact it's an airport certification allows us really to partner and to translate that with others. And third, because it is so data driven, it allows us to drive value into how we're allocating capital and making sure that we're getting the right return. There is a fifth level, which is
Mhm.
net zero. And of course, we will aspire to the highest level, and we hope to achieve that when we achieve net
Right.
zero in 20.
I love the structured way you put this, and I think ACI should contact you to be a brand ambassador for this rating. You're doing a great job in summarizing. And I've seen the rating, and I understand the rigor it goes through. I think it's a great educational process for the entire team as well. It's very comprehensive, I have to admit. Um, Now, we've spoken about scope one and scope two, which is stuff within your control, but we all know that the large majority of an airport's emissions are scope three, which is the actual airlines flying. This is usually beyond your control. So, how are you including, embodied carbon and fuel uplifting accounting? And can you at all influence your scope three emissions ultimately?
The short answer to that is we absolutely can influence them, and we are already doing that here at YVR. So one of the biggest barriers to in our part of the world to having airlines reduce their scope three is the availability and reliability and frankly price of sustainable aviation fuel. And so we have partnered with Air Canada, our largest carrier here, as well as some other carriers, and the province of British Columbia to really take a look at what it would take to get additional capacity for sustainable aviation fuel here, but also what are the attributes of a sound, fair, but nonetheless rigorous regulatory regime that could introduce a low carbon fuel standard for our region. So we're looking to partner to extend our knowledge with our airline customers wherever possible. We also have a role to play, I think, in terms of bringing other airports into the network. For an airline, it's all about the network. It doesn't really help them if they've got one set of criteria at one end of their operations and a different one at the other. So I think we can play a role in leveling the playing field for them there. But certainly, being a partner in advocating for the procurement, availability, price, reliability of sustainable aviation fuel is a huge role that we play in helping our airlines decarbonize.
I want to dig in a little deeper. Is there any sustainable aviation fuel at YVR right now that is being uplifted by airlines?
The short answer to that is yes, but not consistently. So
Okay.
we do get SAF here from time to time,
Hmm.
but it is not regularly provided
Right.
through the fuel system. So that's the problem.
Mm.
How do we get it reliably here at a price that is we all know it's going to be a little bit more expensive until it gets to scale. But as we've seen in other jurisdictions, be it California, be it places in Europe, it is possible, but you have to get the demand and supply equation. And here we've had as many challenges with supply as we
Hmm.
have with demand.
So, I mean, because you said it's periodic, I'm assuming it's not just in the pipeline. It's probably getting barged over or getting trucked over. Where does it come from? And are these contracts that Air Canada might already have with a fuel supplier, or is this something that Vancouver Airport is facilitating?
So the fuel here is purchased, as it is in most airports in North America, is purchased via fuel consortia that is led by the airlines. We have infrastructure here that brings, we have a tank farm, we have pipelines, obviously fueling infrastructure that comes through the airport. So it is mostly done by the fuel consortia, and they will from time to time buy it and blend it and then provide it through the fuel system. We also, though, have been partnering with the province of British Columbia to run their low carbon fuel credit system. And so we contract with them to administer that. And so we are able to give fuel credits to airlines that are using staff when it is brought in. So that way we help to create the marketplace, I guess would be the way that you would best say that, by providing those fuel credits. And so last year it allowed for the purchase of about 77 million liters of SAF.
Wow, that's actually encouraging, and I love the way you're playing a facilitating role. In fact, the best example I know of this is Pittsburgh Airport,
Yeah.
whom we featured in our new book. We have a chapter in which Christina Cassatis shares how Pittsburgh, it's looking to become a SAF hub, an energy hub, not just an airport hub. And I found that quite interesting. In that regard, are there plans to support the local BC ecosystem for SAF production as well? Is that something on the card because the low carbon fuel standard is there?
We are very keen to see sustainable aviation fuel produced in British Columbia. We think that we're in a very good place to do that. Our industries here in British Columbia, we have a significant forestry industry, so wood waste. We also have a significant agricultural industry, so either first line or waste from animal and other oils is another source. And we also, of course, have refining capability right next door in Alberta, and some also in southern British Columbia. So it seems like we have a very, very large aviation hub here in Vancouver, second largest in the country. But the fourth largest, Calgary, is not that far away either, and the sixth largest, Edmonton, not that far either. So it
Right.
seems like there should be all connected with
Mm.
lines. So it seems like there
Okay.
should be a natural market. We just are in the classic phase where the supply chain isn't exactly connected in an efficient way, whether it's the sustainability and sourcing of the feedstock, whether it's the a source and the place of refining and production, or the transport. So we're working hard with our partners to try and knit those together, proving out the business case. We do have demand here. Airlines have said they'll buy it if it's here and available consistently. We've just got to make sure that we do our part to make that so.
That's very interesting. I want to dig into something you just said. You said that Edmonton, Vancouver, and Calgary already are connected with a single pipeline. So if I put a few drops of SAF in one, everyone gets it. Is that it?
Yeah. So the way that so for sure, Calgary and the regions are connected to the south coast of British Columbia through a number of pipelines. Our aviation fuel today comes through a pipeline that comes from Alberta into the Lower Mainland here in BC. So for sure there's also already fuel transport that happens between Edmonton and Calgary, I understand. So again, there are the component parts. They're just not quite engineered from a supply chain point of view, not an infrastructure point of view, to be able to move sustainable aviation fuel. But for sure,
Right.
we move conventional aviation fuel throughout this entire region. So there's nothing in the transport system, be it in a pipeline or be it truck or even rail, that should prohibit the movement of SAF. Our biggest issue is the consistency of the feedstock and the supply, and consistent commitment to refine it.
Wow, this is, I think, a huge opportunity because I think it's rare that the third, fourth, and fifth largest airports in the country can actually make a system, and you might very well become the largest system in
Right.
the country if that comes together. It's a very interesting opportunity there. Um, Shifting gears a little, looking through some of your reporting, one of your biggest capex before 2030 is Canada's one of Canada's largest geo-exchange systems, which will ultimately save about 5,000 carbon tons
Yep.
annually. What is a geo-exchange system? For those who do not know, listening to this podcast, what does it do? And I'm wondering, how does something like this get approved by, let's say, the board around, and what are the discussions around costs or performance or construction and things like that?
Right. So a geo-exchange system generally helps with heating and cooling. So as I mentioned earlier, um, you'll dig a well or two or three wells. And what it allows you to do is to take excess heat when heat is provided, cool it, and send it back as a coolant, all in a loop, essentially, in a very low energy, contained within a system, regenerative, if you want to think of it, way. Very little is lost. As you probably know, in conventional heating and cooling, a lot of energy, a lot of heat lost in the production of that capacity, and ditto for cooling. What it is then is a series of wells connected by a series of pipes that connects to an exchange system like a heat pump that you'd have in your house, that then connects through to significant infrastructure and boilers and chillers and HVAC and other systems inside the buildings. It's not a it's a technical project in terms of its size and scale, but the technology of geo-exchange systems has been around for quite a long period of time. So for us, when we were taking it to the board around this investment, it wasn't so much that there was a risk that the technology itself wouldn't work. Often in this space, you're trying something that's brand new, and so you do assume a certain level of technological or mechanical risk. That's not this case here. And the fact that we had a building and a capacity that could take it in and needed to be heated and cooled at different times of day in different ways, also, so the demand was there. The biggest challenge was scale. Could it be scaled to this size and achieve the benefits? And so that's why we, in part, our engineers took the design of smaller, medium sized wells as opposed to fewer, bigger ones to try and really replicate the technology that already existed, as well as have some resiliency, just like we do with airfield lighting or just like we do with so many other systems, making sure that we have that backup contingency resiliency built into the geo exchange. So we, of course, will see when it comes online, but so far we feel quite confident that those steps really ensure that we can bring something of this scale into practice here at YVR.
It's quite amazing. I'm glad you're doing it. You also have an energy advisory council, which you established in 2024. What is this about, and what are some of the decisions that are being taken or not being taken based on this council's advice?
Well, you mentioned our colleagues at in Pittsburgh, and for sure we also have been watching their progress quite a bit because energy is so key. As I said before, the role that airports play in energy distribution and access to energy at an airport, and therefore for an entire part of the aviation ecosystem, is really second to none. You know, there's lots of discussion in Canada at the moment about the role that marine ports play. Uh, um, the role that airports play in our sector is equal or even greater to what marine ports in Canada play in there. So it's a really big role that we have on the energy front. And so we were looking at our future energy needs and worried a little bit that we might not have the right energy in the right form at the right place in the right time, as we were seeing increased demand from our airline, from our ground handling community, from our airport tenants, and from our commercial concessionaires for increased electrification. So they are also going through the same journey that we're going through. And how would we provide that? We also know that there's other tenants, and we're in partnership with one of the test sites with Airbus on the availability of hydrogen as a fuel and the distribution of hydrogen, which also requires electricity. So, and then we looked at a number of others of our own work around electrifying our fleet, around electrifying our operations, and really the availability of energy really became a central focus. So we are experts in aviation. We're experts in many things, but energy is not our primary focus. So we thought it would be great to just bring some experts together. We're able to assemble a really impressive group from around the world to advise us based on their work either in fuel markets, in running major hydroelectric utilities, in running and providing sustainable fuel and other energy options for the Port of Rotterdam and Schiphol, or the procurement and financing from everywhere from Switzerland to Singapore. It's a pretty great, and then some really great research. We have some scientists also who are really doing cutting edge research, put them all together on one council and help us figure out the pathway for sustainable energy and energy resilience for YVR into the future. So that was the reason. Very humbled by the quality of people who said yes when we called, and we've been very fortunate to have their advice as we navigate this journey.
Wow, this is actually amazing. You're not just benchmarking; you're actually learning from the best, and you're involving them in achieving your own vision. Just still staying on benchmarks, we've seen very different models from airports and airport authorities around the world, from Swedavia and their electrification vision to Singapore and their mandate-driven, uh, you know, SAF surcharge to Heathrow, which gives a landing fee discount if
Mhm.
you buy some SAF. Are there airports or authorities which inspire you, which you think are doing the right thing, which may be applicable to YBR?
There's some really interesting things happening around the world. Most of which you just mentioned. I think the model that we have been most uh, in favor of, I guess I would say, is the model that would allow us to offer incentives and discounts to the landing fees for the right kind of behavior, if I could put it that way, with respect to SAF. The challenge there is if there's no SAF available, then it's difficult for us to provide it. So that's where we get to the reason why we're so keen to build out that ecosystem. What I think I would observe with regimes around the world is it really is a balance of incentives and regulations that get the marketplace to its most efficient functioning fastest. But if there's a part of it that's going to fail, no matter what the incentive and the regulatory regime in place, so the carrot and stick balance, there's no point in having either of those things, because all we're doing is adding either costs or disincentives, frankly, to the direction that we want to go. So that's why we've been so focused on what can we do to get that ecosystem functioning. Where do we bring leverage that maybe people hadn't thought about before in terms of the airports that are in our region and the connectivity we already have? How can we use the benefit of expertise from around the world to help us do that, and then we can put the regime in place.
Right, right. No, it's very, very interesting. Now, coming back home to British Columbia, of course, BC has a very forward thinking, low carbon jet fuel incentive.
Yeah.
How does the airport plan to meet this mandate? I believe from 2028. Do you intend to import a lot of SAF? Do you intend to work with local production and in SAF? how will you get there?
Well, we 100% would prefer to get there through production of local SAF, which is why we've been doing all that work I've been talking about. But if we can't, and we definitely are still on that path. We haven't given up there. But if we can't, we will have to. We will have to import. The problem is with importing, it's very challenging, both in terms of we're in a bit of a uncertain moment with respect to the movement of goods and tariffs around the world and access to supply chains. So there's a resiliency component to domestic production as well. But yes, we would have to try and procure as much as we could. I think it's a question whether we could procure it actually in the quantities that we would need solely from the market. And so that's why we're really working with the government to say, use the tools that you have as well to make sure that the energy industry and the fuel industry is coming together. Otherwise, this great policy that you have out here is not going to produce the benefits that you want because there's simply a lack of supply.
I have two follow-up questions on this. Once again, going back into your past, you happen to be the youngest female deputy finance minister for British Columbia back in the day.
Yeah.
If you were back into those government hat, what would you do differently to encourage this supply locally? And once you answer that, I have the second question.
That's a great question. I'm often asked what I would tell my younger self, and I usually say something like buy more Vancouver real estate. But when it comes to when it comes to when it comes to the policy and regulatory direction of the province, I was the deputy when we designed the first. A carbon tax in North America. At that time, it was revenue neutral. So it was put right back into these investments. And I think there was some frankly, wisdom in that reinvestment because that's what was needed to get some of this infrastructure and some of these changes on the ground. So what we've seen with carbon taxes, of course, which have now been repealed in most places, but the reason they were repealed is because they ended up just being a tax. So just like any other tax. So they didn't have the transformational market change that they were originally designed to do. So I would really have been doubling down on the need to use the stick of a tax in order to generate investment that the province could leverage alongside private sector investment to create the supply chain. The problem that we have here is, I think, not so much a question of a lack of demand or willingness on the part of industry, businesses, or even individuals. It's that there's no supply at anything close to a competitive rate. And so it's just a dead weight cost on most households, on most businesses, on most airlines, and on most transportation and travel ecosystems. So we have to do our part to make the supply part of that equation realistic. And then, of course, there should be penalties for those who are laggards. But from the data that I've seen, and frankly, the earlier practice that we saw, there will be a shift if you get the consistency on the supply side. There's a demand there for sure. We just have to focus on supply.
Okay. Thank you for putting that hat on and giving that perspective. Once again, it's rare, right? You can have the government perspective as well. Now, to kickstart the ecosystem, do you foresee YVR itself buying SAF, either on behalf of airlines or, becoming a buyer of low carbon jet fuel?
We've looked at that, and I am not averse to that in any way. However, it has to be in service of something. So if we're just going to buy SAF, it's going to be used, then we're not going to have it for 6 months, and then we're going to buy some more, and then I don't know what that really achieves. And so, is that the best way that we spend our investment dollars, or are we better to be working really to create the ecosystem that generates consistent supply? We have many assets here going for us here at YVR. We're also, though, very financially strong and sound. So we have a very, very strong balance sheet. So we have the capacity to invest in this space. But again, just like our investments on the geo-exchange system or any others that we make, we really are investing. Our job is to provide safe, first and foremost, efficient movement of people and goods each and every day. But our second job is, in order to do that in the days in the future, of course, be planning the long-term infrastructure and ecosystem and technology and supports and people that will generate that. And so we're not in a place where buying it in the market creates any difference, really,
Interesting.
to the long term. And so that's why we are focused more on the sustainability of the long term.
The ecosystem. Like, I'm wondering, just a thought. What if you bought, let's say, 12 million tons, and every month you released a million ton? So then airlines are guaranteed, oh, there's some supply, and because it was 12 million tons, which is what I think Singapore is doing, you have a lower rate for all the airlines since you're using the green premium. I'm just wondering if something like that would work in
Yes,
BC or YBR.
if we could see our way to doing something that would be truly sustainable and not even just for 2 or 3 years sustainable, then those kinds of bridging mechanisms that would allow us to introduce the market that we talked about would be
Got it.
absolutely things that would be
Fair
on the
enough.
table. But they have to lead to the eventual place that we need to get to. And I'm not
Right.
sure that putting so much of our dependence on the supply chain that I see at the moment and the market that I see at the moment would be prudent.
So, which tools are you seeing as the most promising in boosting this or closing this supply demand gap? Is it book and claim and driving some corporate demand, or is it something that's to be led by airlines in the local ecosystem? What do you see working?
We certainly have seen early initiatives by largely national or global companies around only encouraging corporate travel on SAF, for example, or some of the booking claim systems that you've more generically referred to. But again, the I don't see a real problem with demand. Air Canada, again, our largest domestic carrier here, as a publicly traded company, has commitments in that regard. The problem is they just don't have the supply here. They do when they fly to Europe, and they absolutely refuel with SAF there, but they don't when they're in Canada. WestJet, our second largest carrier, not publicly traded, so not as much information. But again, we've seen that they have interest at our airport in that demand. It's just that the supply isn't here. And then, of course, our Asian and European carriers are also used to those kinds of mechanisms when they fuel at their home airports. So I'm not so sure that the demand is the biggest problem. Again, our focus at the moment is we don't want to ignore demand entirely, but our focus is more and more on supply.
Fair enough. We spoke about SAF. You mentioned a little while earlier about hydrogen.
Yeah.
And I'm curious where exactly you see hydrogen playing a role, especially from an infrastructure perspective. Hydrogen as a fuel, that's quite a long way from right now, or hydrogen in airside vehicles or regional aircraft. Where does hydrogen come into your plans?
Yeah, so we like many in our industry have been watching the hydrogen fuel trajectory with interest. I think you stated what I would agree with. It's a long-term trajectory, given the need to redesign aircraft and how many airlines have recently purchased aircraft. So we have to think about what they're going to be doing with those assets over the long term. So we do think that hydrogen has a future role to play. And so we, for sure, as I said, are partnering one of the test sites to try and understand what it would take to distribute hydrogen here as a fuel. Really, some preliminary feasibility studies with Airbus. We also have a partnership with some hydrogen fueling companies for hydrogen vehicles off island, so off airport lands, to try and understand what those look like. But those are really small investments and small projects, I would say, when they're contrast with the work that we're doing on electrification, the availability of electricity, because of course that's needed, as I said earlier, for hydrogen in any event, and sustainable fuels, be they SAF or green natural gas for us, or biofuels. So, for example, on our air side, we have a pilot project at the moment with a local company to make mobile EV charging stations, because as you probably know, on an airfield, it's not quite the same as it is in a commercial or a residential, where the vehicles tend to sleep at night somewhere where they can get charged. These are more often and almost exclusively common use vehicles, so we have to bring the charging infrastructure to them. What does that look like? How quickly? How much battery capability do you need in a mobile charger? And so this company is making these chargers fit for purpose for us, out of recycled batteries, which is an extra bonus. And if it works here, of course, then we think it has applicability at other airports. So those are the places where we're making investments more than hydrogen. We definitely have an eye to it, but I'd say it's a peripheral eye out in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Our focus really is on electrification and alternative fuels.
Wow, I hear you. And I think we've covered an entire gamut. Now, the final part of this Into Tomorrow is where we get to know you a bit more personally. And it's called the rapid fire round, in which I'll ask you questions and you have a little word or a short phrase to reply. Like simple things like, what's your favorite airline?
My favorite airline, absolutely, is Gulf Island Seaplanes. They're a Indigenous owned airline here on the coast of BC. They have a small fleet of de Havilland beavers, and they connect a unique part of the world here in commercial service that runs from the river and south of our airport.
Brilliant.
Points on islands around the coast.
Like Salt Spring Islands.
Yeah, Salt Spring, Tino, Gabriola, Ruxton, DeCourcy, Maple Bay on...
I had a hunch you might say Harbor Air, but you beat me on this one.
Harbor Air is also fantastic, and of course their electric plane is really impressive, and we're so happy that they're based here at YVR. But yes, a huge shout out to Gulf Island.
Good one, thank you.
Really great local airline.
First mention on this podcast in 3 years, so thank you for bringing that up. Your favorite book?
My favorite book. I read a lot of books. It is hard for me to pick a favorite, but probably if I had to, it would be Blindness by Jose Coelho. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Maybe it's if it's easier, what's your favorite movie?
Oh, my favorite movie. So it's like so cheesy, but I am a huge James Bond fan. So we watch all the James Bond movies in my household over the holidays, all 25, now 26.
Wow. Okay, yeah. Let's dive in a bit further. Who's your favorite Bond of all time?
Oh, my favorite Bond, I think, still has to be the original, Mr. Connery. Although
Sean Connery.
Yep. Although
nice.
I don't know, each one of them has their own. Even Lazenby has its own place in history. You can really see the different the difference in society, what was viewed as entertaining and what was viewed as not,
Mm-hmm.
over in Western society over the course of.
Yeah, very interesting. Your favorite city, Tamara?
My favorite city is Vancouver.
Okay, not surprised. Not surprised. Would not even debate that. What do you do in your free time?
My free time. Well, of course, I travel quite a bit, and I love to travel. So even though it's my work, it's also my pleasure. I spend a lot of time. Have a big family, extended family, so spend a lot of time with family and friends. We like to get together and cook and socialize. So I like to host and
Okay,
attend the odd party.
lovely. What is something you'd like to learn?
I would really, if I could start over again, I would like to learn how to build a house. I think it'd be something kind of great to be able to build your own house.
That is so cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, in Canada, you probably can build your own cottage.
that's right.
I I once had another executive, Bonnie Simi, on the podcast who said that her final wish, the one thing she really still wants to do, is to build her own cottage, which
Yeah,
she
yeah,
intends
absolutely.
to do.
There's something just very tangible and satisfying in that.
Okay. And final question: what's the best advice you've received?
The best advice I received, that one's easy. I share it with people who ask all the time, and that is, I was told once that that leaders and successful people make mistakes, but they don't dwell on them. And so everybody makes mistakes, right? That secret is, of course, how you learn from them.
Fantastic. Tamara, I really appreciated your openness and thank you for sharing what I think is quite visionary and will be very helpful for other airports and airlines to learn from. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I think it's great the work you're doing to cover this aspect of aviation. It has a bright future.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Sustainability in the Air. Aviation is one of the hardest to decarbonize industries, yet there are multiple paths to get to net zero. Awareness is key to a green future. So please give us your support to help our sustainable aviation insights reach a wider audience. You can do this by sharing this episode on your network, on LinkedIn, Twitter, or even WhatsApp. Or perhaps you might consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to this episode. You can start a conversation with us by writing to us at podcast@simpliflying, that's simply with an i.com. And for more content on sustainable aviation, please visit our website green.simpliflying.com and join the movement. Sustainability in the Air is an original podcast by Simpliflying. The show is produced by Juraj Toth in Slovakia. Dirk Singer is our Director of Sustainability, who leads research for each interviewee out of Greenwich, UK. Shubhadeep Pal is our Supervising Editor based out of Mumbai and Singapore. The articles are written by Ayushi Badola in Dehradun in India and Meera Hull in Montreal, Quebec. Creative design is led by Lihia Esteve in Montreal. Baiba Dreamen is the project director for the show based out of Valencia, Spain. Special thanks to Wendy Sim in Singapore. And I'm Shashank Nigam, the CEO of Simpliflying and your host. Please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn.